All right, we're live. Let's see if we got some sound. Might have some feedback. I tried this just a few minutes ago, but it's been a bit of a train wreck trying to get this to work. Um, let's see. Let me just put YouTube. Let me put Ticker Pulse and see if we can get this thing to work. I really want to do a daily live stream and just cover the stocks that are most talked about in my app, and then just about the daily macro, that kind of how that shapes everything. Let me just see where we are here. Ticker Pulse. Okay, we got sound. Okay, we got sound. All right, let's get started. Let me see. I got one friend. Let me tell him to tune back in. Go back here, and where is he here? Have him on my phone. Okay, I'm back online. Okay, sound is working. I think I'll have to trim this. I guess there's some tools to edit these videos and everything. So let's go ahead and get started. We go ahead and share the screen. Back to the Ticker Pulse screen here. Have to kind of learn as you go. You know, I know Mr. Beast, it didn't start so easily for him either, but I'm not trying to be Mr. Beast here. All right, thanks, Aiden. Thanks for your help. I really appreciate it. It'd be nice to just have someone, because it's hard to tell if things are working or not. You're doing all this solo, and I don't have the benefit of a studio. So yeah, this is the Ticker Pulse app, and what we do is we track the conversation in the blogosphere. Track over 20 bloggers, content creators, some mainstream like Schwab Network, CNBC, and then but mostly people in the blogosphere, to see what's being talked about, at least where the conversation is. And you have a lot of semiconductor and space. 90 days ago. Let's let it load up here. And so Nvidia and semiconductors were dominating, and there's a little bit of oil because the war had just started up, and Amazon. But now we're in memory, Micron, and I think Marvell is up here somewhere, if I had seen it the other day, or I think it's going back. Oh, here it is. Yeah, Marvell, and then a little bit of oil, and Facebook is there, Palantir. So I'm Alex Grover. I'm an independent investor, and my daytime job is as a technical project manager, IT project manager. I have a background in nuclear engineering and an MBA. I've been investing for many years, been working equally as hard for many years. And I had reached the conclusion that a lot of the ideas start out in the blogosphere or in independent media before they go into mainstream, into like Moody's or Morningstar. And it's even a bit late. By then, a lot of the gains have already been had. So I believe in this: buy the rumors, sell the news. So I'm trying to look for the rumors, and then by the time it becomes news, that's when it's time to sell. And this is not financial advice. This is just my own personal opinion. I mean, in general, my investment philosophy is to go long term, but not to buy and hold. It's buy and monitor. And really to look at a company that if it will be around in 10 years. Is there some technology that could displace it? Is there something else coming up? Another, are they having bad financials? Are they dependent on one leader? What have you? That's what you really have to be careful. And long-term investing is not a silver bullet. Now, I would think that indexes, not I think, I know indexes generally tend to do better, index funds, because they have a basket of companies. So if one goes bad, the other ones can pick it up, and the index manager or the fund manager can switch out the companies, the ones that are, not the ones that are blowing up, and then put in some rising stars. So it's good risk management. That's what you want to do. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You don't want to just chase ideas. You want to have some discipline, and that's something you can message me about later. I'll share my opinion about it. I'm not an investment advisor, far from it. So, but I do like to talk about this topic and share my opinions. So yes, that's the point of the Ticker Pulse app, getting back on listening to conversation, our app listens to all the YouTube videos for you, so you don't have to, and consolidates the findings of what the conversation is. And if you open up the app here in the dashboard, you can, see what was talked about yesterday. Um, I have to log in. Yeah, I have to talk to the developers about just remembering the login, remembering the device. I might have dynamic IP, so maybe that's why it forgets sometimes. But you can see, like, we didn't have much conversation yesterday on Sundays. Sometimes you get like 5, 6 bloggers talking about the same stock. So Nvidia is always up here, Amazon is always up here, and then other ones had gotten picked up. The bloggers do like a weekend special. So this is what they're talking about, mostly in the semis, a little bit of crypto. I do follow some crypto only bloggers because I want to see if there's any other cryptos coming up, but mainly I'm a Bitcoin guy, and Ethereum maybe if they can convince me. So yeah, that's where we're at. And we'll come back to this. We'll come back to this later on. I just want to go over the global news. So we can see what's dominating headlines. We had some shooting this weekend in the Strait of Hormuz. There were some shots fired, but it seems like it's just dominating a corner of the BBC. Why do I look at the BBC? Because in America, you have CNN and Fox, and they're just too extreme. Um, thank you. Yeah, I need all the likes and I can get. So, but we have to start somewhere. So, yeah, it looks like this is dying down. It looks like this is not a major escalation, but you never know. I'm still taking a very cautious approach with investing because we don't know if this can flare up or not. We don't know what Israel can do. The Israelis are kind of uh, what the Israelis could do spontaneously because they've been left out and they're not happy. What do I think of DW or French 24 in Europe? Yeah, I think they're good too. Um, I just think the BBC is more authoritarian or trusted or authoritative. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for, authoritative. I think the DW and the French 24 kind of follow the BBC. I'd say they're up earlier in the morning in London than they are in Paris or Berlin, and it's more of a worldly news. So, I mean, they're good. I like DW's shorts. DW does a lot of technology shorts as well. Then you have some more local UK news. You have some World Cup. So, yeah, this is you get all kind of I mean, it's a little bit left leaning, but I think it's pretty objective overall. I don't have anything against it, but at least it gets you to understand where the conversation is. Say, like if Iran was way up on top here and everything, and the war, then I would be a bit worried. Now let's take a look at the 10-year Treasury. We can go to the 10-year over here and take a look at that. So yeah, it's actually down a bit. And we're way off our highs. So it looks like the market just shrugged this off. But oil prices are a bit high. Let me just refresh the screen. I had that little crash and burn. The sound wasn't working. But now here we are. Yeah. So it looks like the oil prices, yeah, they were up and now they're kind of pulling back. Natural gas is actually down a lot. So the OPEC, is down. OPEC basket, and then you have the Indian basket. I'm not sure what that is. I think those are the countries that India buys from. So yeah, it looks like this died off over the weekend. I mean, looks like we get hysterics on the weekend and then everything dies off on Monday. But we just don't know. We don't know. The Israelis out of nowhere could do something. The people in Lebanon, the Hamas or Hezbollah or both, could do something. There's just it's so fragile, I should say. But it looks like the market, looking at these signals, looks like they're mostly shrugging it off. And I'm trying to look at this as a long-term investor. I'm not a day trader. I'm a day opportunist. If there's a day and there looks like a lot of opportunity, I'll take some of my cash and put it in. And if there's markets are like flying off, everything is shooting up, I'm going to take some profits, and just sit on the cash and wait for those 20, 30 days a year when everything dumps, or those 20, 30 days a year when everything skyrockets. I mean, rest of the year it's pretty boring and you should have another hobby. I mean, this is just my opinion. Go to the beach or go fishing or go to the gym. I don't know why all these Rolls Royce ads keep popping up. You know, maybe it's telling. I don't know. But it looks like the fear just slightly ticked up. Let's just take a look at and we're still way down in extreme fear. But it looks like, I mean, greed is actually like I should say greed is up. So it looks like people are, let me just zoom in here if that's possible. Yeah, it looks like we have a slightly tick up that people are getting greedy. So maybe we have a bottom here. We had a slight mild correction or bruise in the market, I should say. We haven't had the big dump everyone is talking about. But that will come about if we get the rate hikes. There will be some pullback and rebalancing. Um, so I'll answer this about the options here in a little bit. My thoughts about options trading. I just want to get through this admin here and some news. So this is the housing bill that was on Trump's desk. This could actually, if it gets signed, could actually reduce inflation. But what it could also do, what Trump is concerned about, is reduce the wealth of the people who already own their houses. Some people bought some mansions, for $500,000, and now they're worth like 10 million. I don't think it would be the mansions, but let's say some house was bought for like $250,000 and it's worth a million, and then he does this housing reform, gets the private equity people out of housing. Those houses could take a hit because obviously you're taking the institutional buyers out of the market and just have families. And families are limited by their income on how much they can afford versus like a Wall Street private equity or asset manager or a hedge fund or whatever. They can just make an all cash purchase and pay a premium without blinking an eye. And that's what part of this bill is going to do, along with rezoning. They're going to, I haven't read too deep into it, but the two things that stuck out to me is they're going to allow for rezoning and then also getting the private equity out of the housing. I think that's one of the single biggest culprits that ran up housing and ran up housing inflation. But this would definitely take the inflation down. And then the Fed would be more biased towards holding. But right now, with the current situation with inflation and everything, you have a Bank of America says that they see 75 basis points. And that's what I had calculated in my previous video. We're 75 basis points short. Inflation is running 4.1, 4.2%. And the Fed rate is 3.5, 3.75%. So, and we need to be a little bit above zero real interest rates. So 75 basis points is right because they raise in 25 increments. I've never seen them raise like just slightly. They usually do it by 25 at a point, 0.25%, and they give you a range. So yeah, yeah, that's more Rolls Royces here. Nice. Maybe I'll get one day if this channel blows up like Mr. Beast channel, but probably not. I don't even like to drive, you know. So yeah, that's where we are. You're asking about options. So if there's like a day that one of your favorite, this is not investment advice, but if like a really good stock has really been dumped because the whole market is dumped, that's where I would buy a call option and go long, because it's going to recover and the option can go up faster than the underlying stock. But you got to have a strategy to get out because if you hang on to it too long, it can just go to zero also. Or you can, if the stock is 250 and you had an option for 200, you paid $10 for it, so you're in at 210 and you have the right to buy it at 200 and it's 250, maybe just exercise the right to buy. But you have to be opportunistic. The best way to do options, in my opinion, is either sell the call or sell the put, and then you have a calculated predictable gain. You might miss some upside, you might miss some downside. You might buy your stock too expensive because if the put is set for 50 and the stock goes down to 30, you have to buy it at 50. So you got to be careful with the puts. But the call options, it's more of a good problem to have. So if you sell a covered call on your stock at 300 and the stock goes to 400 and your cost basis is 200, you bought that stock for 200, you want to sell it for 300, it goes to 400, you still get a 50% upside, but you missed some upside. But you collected a premium and you got to go spend that money, in town. So yeah, there's risks in the market. Trump was supposed to sign this housing deal. I think he's mostly doing this as posturing because he wants to get the voting rights passed. Now, I'm with him on that. You know, they need to do voting reform in America. When I lived in Norway, you have to show ID, proof of citizenship, to vote in a national election. In a local election, residents can vote. I think permanent residents can vote, but not like temporary workers or whatever. So they have two classes of voters. You have like local elections, your Norwegian green card holders, non-citizens can vote, and in a national election, you have to be a citizen. Um, yeah, yeah. So we've covered all of this. 10-year is down. Oil prices are, a little bit elevated, reflecting um, some of the fear, I guess, of what's going on, but not so much so that it's going to wreck the market. And they've been trending down. Um, and oil right now is our biggest inflation indication, along with housing. Housing is a chronic problem, and that's like I said. But if they can release more housing in the market, another part of that bill is also allowing for more manufactured housing, which is much cheaper than building a custom house from Pulte or KB Homes or something like that, just to have a house made in a factory, and they're pretty nice. Um, Bank of America is calling for rate hikes. Now, my view is there'll only be one, and it'll be symbolic and a lot of tough talk. Because as we discussed in the last video, if they hike rates too much, too fast, they can wreck the economy, and it would put a lot of, it's a political thing. I suppose there's a lot of political pressure from Trump as well. But I mean, I'm actually hoping they can get the interest rates up. Higher interest rates mean lower housing prices. It'll bring the housing prices down. It's better, in my view, to buy a $200,000 house at a higher interest rate, like at 8%, than buying a $400,000 house at 4%. You know, then you just pay off your principal faster, and then the interest makes less of an impact. But that's just my view. There's probably some tables and calculations on that. I wanted to talk about SpaceX. That's I think what the cover slide is showing here is talking about Elon Musk and SpaceX. So let's yeah, talk about that. Looks like the SpaceX stock. Yeah, it looks like it's pumping and dumping. Now I've got puts on this for September of next year at 70. I really believe this thing is going to crash and burn. I think once the investors, the early investors and the employees and bag holders like Goldman and JP Morgan or whoever, bought all these shares, late, they're gonna when they're gonna dump as soon as they can. I mean, a lot of it, and we really talk about Elon Musk, like his track record is not spotless. I wanted to talk about, his past projects. Like when I first heard about him, uh, he was talking about Hyperloop. I mean, I heard about Tesla, but Hyperloop was the most interesting one. Uh, you know, uh, Elon Musk. And this was being talked about to like build high speed rail. This was back when Elon Musk was on the Democrat side to, connect, make it possible to go 1 hour between San Francisco and Los Angeles and all this kind of talk. And now you look here, he's just kind of given it up, you know. So yeah, it was a long time ago. Yeah, I remember, all this talk about Hyperloop, and this is far more achievable than sending 1 million people to Mars, sending you know, sending cans up into space with GPUs and giant solar panels, and then beaming data down to Earth. And let's not worry about clouds or anything like that get in the way, or weather, or dirty mirrors or dirty optics or space junk. This was far more achievable. This is like much more achievable than and much more needed. I should say that this would enable the middle class in America to travel at much lower cost, and then free up more money for consumer spending. And this would open up more markets. This could connect the suburbs to the city and get rid of these crazy commutes, and then people could be in their desk more instead of their car more, or they could be home earlier and spend more on leisure time and recover and become productive. I mean, Hyperloop I thought was a great idea, and I thought was going somewhere. And in my view of all of his holdings. I think this boring company, the one that makes all the holes in the ground, I think is actually the best company he's got. That's what we need. We need to build like underground metros and infrastructure. More and more of the people are moving into the cities over time. Every year more people move from the country to the cities. So we need to do this. I mean, if you look at Lviv, Ukraine, or Virginia Beach, Virginia, the two places I live, they're both all traffic jammed, and they both could benefit from a project like this. Now in Lviv, it's all swamp, so they'd probably have to build a hyperloop above ground. But here in Virginia Beach, to Norfolk, to the Portsmouth, to the naval bases, we definitely have an underground solution. I think the ground is solid enough here, or maybe a combination of both. We are pretty close to the water, so maybe we have to be a little bit elevated in some places. Um, so yeah, and even Wikipedia, someone wrote in about the hype. So that's one of them. And then, the Tesla FSD. So let's just search Tesla FSD, true all conditions, um, without driver status and safety um, record. As I recall, FSD right now, you know, yeah, cannot operate in all conditions. As I recall, I did some research on this, and I do remember the numbers. A human can drive like 500 or 600,000 miles without an accident. And the FSD right now, as it stands, in all conditions, with all edge cases, can only go 100,000 miles. Like, for example, it can drive in the wrong lane, cause an accident. It doesn't understand dirt roads. It doesn't understand water in the roads. It doesn't understand a ball in the street. A kid would be following it. You know, there's a lot of things that, the edge cases, it works like on a nicely paved freeway or nicely marked roads. And it probably can catch 80%. And that's probably what Elon should have done, is look for an 80% solution, like have self-driving trucks running overnight on the major freeways. It could probably handle that, and you could have probably got that pushed through, like sending freight from Los Angeles to Chicago, or from, Chicago to Cincinnati on the interstates. And then the truck just parks, the self-driving truck just parks itself at a warehouse outside the city, and the day drivers come and pick up the load and take it the last mile. But he got bored with this. I mean, we're still in trials with the robo taxis. There's issues with them. Um, it's also a lot of, it needs his attention. He needs to be putting all his energy in this to get through the regulatory hurdles, and, getting this, here it's talking about the safety debate. But there is data on this, and it's right now it's not good. Now, if you have a human driving with the FSD, then it's like 5 million miles without an accident, when they're working together. But a human alone is better than the FSD alone. But when they're working together, that's the best. Um, so I don't know. His attention was here, and now it's not here anymore. Now it's like going to Mars and, putting a. I mean, to me, it's just crazy. I don't know why anyone would buy this SpaceX. I mean, I used to think I was crazy to be against all this and think it's nuts, or crazy to think it was crazy, but actually, no, I'm sane. And I sound like a nutcase or something, right? It's just, when you look at this track record, let's look at the Neuralink. This is another one of his projects here. And this is also another thing that just needs like a guy like him to spend all his time on it. Neuralink progress update. So we can look here. So let's see what it says. It's still in the trials. I should say it's still in the laboratory. There's a little bit of this, but it could be much more. It needs someone to drive it, right? It's just moving very slow. And again, all of these things, Hyperloop is a lifetime work of a genius. A genius would, a guy like Elon should put his lifetime into that, or into full self-driving. You probably need Elon, Jensen Huang, engineering team at Google, and they should all be put together. The government should put them together, because that would really enable our economy. Like, there's a bar down the street, or bar and restaurant, and they're limited by the parking. So imagine if there was like cars could just drop you off, and then you go in there, and then they come and pick you up, and you don't have to worry about the parking. They can go out and give other people rides, or they can go hide somewhere or something like that. So yeah, that's my deal. And then also, I think Elon Musk was into these wombs, right? Elon Musk. artificial wombs, artificial womb, yeah, artificial. So yeah, he was talking about this too, about having like Tesla wombs, so that women don't have to be pregnant. You can still get the baby without experiencing pregnancy. I don't know what happened to this project, but like, I don't know. When you're the outside looking, yeah, great, he's the world's richest man and everything, but I'm not going to give him any of my money. You know, yeah, I want to get rich too. He became rich by taking other people's money and maybe leaving other people poor. I don't know. I mean, yeah, there were people who made money on Tesla when the electric car thing was a thing, but now the electric cars are like a commodity, and really what it's about is getting this full self-driving, doing some science instead of just selling, batteries on wheels. So anyway, that's enough. That's why I'm shorting, or I should say buying puts. I'm not truly shorting SpaceX, borrowing shares, selling the shares, and then try to buy them back later. I'm just buying some 1 year out puts because I think in a year or so people will wake up that it's crazy. The rockets are complex. Uh, you know, uh, his Grok and all this data center thing is a lot of competition. You know, all this stuff. It's just I like the company at 700 billion, or better even at 500 billion. I think that's where it's a good company, or I mean a good stock. It's a good company in a sense. They're doing a lot of science, which is cool, but it's not making any money, and definitely not anything to justify the valuations. So yeah, but I'm a little concerned about the leadership, being spread out very thin. So so yeah. Yeah, so let's move on and go to the ticker pulse. We'll come back to the ticker pulse and just review what's being talked about here. Um, so, as we were discussing earlier, Amazon is at the top of the conversation. Bitcoin. Let's see what's going on with Bitcoin. Actually, we can look at some other tools here in the blog. We can do ticker lookup, and that's to see how much. If you want to look up a particular ticker, yes, then you use this tool, and you can check the history and who's been talking about it. But I want to do the source lookup. Let's see. Let's see who's talking about it the last 30 days. Let's do last 7 days. I want to see where is my favorite YouTuber for crypto is Cryptos R Us. Yeah, this guy George. Um, let's just search. Oh, okay. We need to put something here. Oh, I got kicked out. Yeah, I'll get logged back in. Yeah, actually, I want to go to ticker lookup, and then yeah, let's go see who's talking about Bitcoin. Let's set the calendar for let's see for the last this month here, the last 10 days or so. This week to this week. Let's see. I have to ask them how to reset this. Let's see, June. Okay, let's go greater than 2 mentions. Oh, we can sort by the date. Okay, so newest to oldest. Let's put in BTC and see who's talking about it and how they feel about it. Get some sentiment here. Okay, so it goes all the way back. I'm still learning these tools myself. I develop them and then I get caught up with other stuff, with life in general. It's can take over sometimes. All right, let's try to get this Bitcoin. There we are. Okay, so it looks like we have a lot of bearish sentiment around the Bitcoin. People are talking about it. I mean, it looks like George at Crypto RS, he was bullish, but it looks like a 3 is in the middle, moderately bearish. I mean, I don't know. I have a small position in it. It's just one of these things I don't understand, but it can surprise you. It feels like the price is low off its highs. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Other one is gold. You know, gold has pulled back a lot, and if we go into a financial crisis where they have to cut rates, then gold will go up. But right now, they're talking about rate hikes, which is pushing gold down. So we can look up gold prices here. Yeah, it's way off its highs. You know, it's gold is way off its highs. You know, but it's coming down to. I don't do this trend lines and stuff, but it is something I accumulate when I don't know what else to do with my money because over time it's going to win because of inflation. You know, the inflationary and money printing policies that we have. Even though they might do some hikes in the short term and everything, you know, it looks like the current administration wants to grow this economy through borrowing. So, all right. So, but yeah, most of the talked about stocks here. You know, the source here's a source report. So, yeah, for yesterday, so you can see who talked about what. Schwab Network, and then you can actually go see the videos if you want to dive deeper. You know, Bitcoin Coin Barrow, you can see why they're bearish, you know, why they have a bearish sentiment now. Here's a couch investor. I follow him. He's a guy in Belgium, and you can see his YouTube videos. Here, let me just. I don't know if the sound will create a feedback loop or something. So, but anyway, that's how this tool works. That's part of the premium subscription. If you want a free pass for a while, let me know. I'll make you a free pass. Um, you know, let me just type. Thanks for have to start somewhere. So yeah, this is what's going on. Let me just get my notes. Yeah, let's see the new stocks, new tickers. That's probably the most interesting. See if anything has come up in the last couple days. SpaceX because it's been newly listed. So we have like a first scene. Okay, let's see. Let's do newest to oldest. On ADP. Actually, I met a guy on the beach who works for ADP. He was there with his kid, automatic data processing. They do all the payroll stuff. This is like a cash cow business. This is probably a safety stock. Um, that's probably why it came up. And then you have Voyager Therapeutics. I think these guys, they're doing something interesting. This is not the first time I've heard this name. It's been a while. Like I said, and there's a whole bunch of like new stocks that have been picked up in the blogosphere. UUU Energy Fuels. This is a uranium company. I've seen them in the newsletters. Uh, Vanguard. Okay, so that's a tech ETF that just gives you a bit of Tau. There's like a sensor company. Yeah, so there's a lot of Danaher. They make like dentist chairs, as far as I remember, like medical equipment, and so they're coming up. So there's a lot of this like mid cap, classic American mid cap companies coming up. There's plenty of stuff for you guys to deep dive into, and you know you can tell me about it. I can invite you on the stream, and you can tell your findings. But I just want to look up what this Voyager Pharmaceuticals does. Let's see. Let's see. Voyager Therapeutics. Are they doing the obesity, or are they doing something else? Um, let me just see. Somewhere they Alzheimer's using gene therapy. And let's see what the news. And then it's like a question mark. Did they get any approval? Is this Viking or Voyager? It's Voyager Therapeutics. Yeah, there's Viking that does the obesity medicine. But let's see what's in the news for these guys. Let me just put the ticker in here and then go to the news if there's anything. So I have to read into this. Let's see. Stock Titan. I don't know what that is. Let's see. Trading view price targets. They're burning cash. That was 3 weeks ago. But 3 hours ago, gets a late breaking AIEIC. So they're a gene therapy company. And the thing is with a lot of these companies here, these pharma companies, like I'm just in CRISPR and another one which I did a lot of research just to make sure they have enough cash. These companies are all doing R&D, looking for like a breakthrough, and then getting that breakthrough license takes a lot of time. And then when they get that, the things just take off. Yeah, see, they're bleeding out of their eyes. Net income is way down. Let's look at their balance sheet. And they got assets. Their assets are strong. Cash flow, yeah, they're cash from investing, but lately, oh, that's quarterly here. Let's do annual. Yeah, it looks like they got some cash from investing, like people making investments, but yeah, it looks like it's hard. You got to know this business. You got to really understand this. This might need a deep dive. Um, this Voyager Therapeutics, but let me see. But it had a bullish view. Um, and let's look it up. Who talked about it? Let's go to ticker lookup here. Let me put this in here. Yeah, and then let's search this one out. It's still loading. Yeah, so hitting the database, as one would say. They have some work to do there. But I would appreciate a like and subscribe at the very least. And if you want to use this tool, let me know. And I'll send you a pass so you can check the paid areas. That's for listening to the live stream. Um, yeah. So let's take a look at the yeah. Okay, let's ticker look up here. Okay, now we're loading it up. We collect a lot of data. We collect a lot of data on this. And analyze. Yeah, he gives some pretty good analytical deep dives, and he's bullish on this. So yeah, we have to find his video. Go to Analyze and then see which video he talked about. Somewhere you can search it out. But I think that's all I got today. Yeah, we're closing in on 40 minutes. Um, you know, yeah. So I think the next time I come online, that's probably going to be once a week until I can get some stuff in my life settled down a bit. I got a lot of trips to do, a lot of things with work. I'd like to do this daily. I think when I get back to Ukraine, I'll try to do a daily stream. I've just been terribly busy here. But what I want to do is like start talking about like the new stocks, especially ones under $10 billion market cap that are not tech, you know, maybe like a restaurant or a pharma or some, retail concept or something that has some real growth potential that could catch a rotation, when people are just having semiconductor fatigue. And we'll talk about that on the next issue. Anyway, thank you everyone, and we'll see you next time. And thanks for bearing with me. It'll get better. We're evolving. Take care. Go ahead.